what I'm going to talk about is going to really open your eyes this morning, even though it's a little too early for it, but you're going to be interested in this story, because it's big, and I don't want to just sit here and read a lot of stuff, but it has to be said. It's a terrific story about unspeakable torture in Latin America, and in this case, in specifically the Honduras. Now, the story that appeared in the New York Times speaks for itself, and I really encourage people to get out and read it, because I'm sure it is going to break loose as one of the major stories of the year. But here is a story about that story, therefore it's a little briefer, that appeared in the Washington Post just yesterday, and I'll only read parts of this, but it will fill in the details of what I want to talk about. And then I want to go into the what's behind all this, and I think this is what will surprise you quite a bit. Now, in talking of, quote, a tale of unspeakable evil in Honduras, we find that Inez Murillo is a Honduran woman who survived torture in the hands of Honduran government death squads. Her account was corroborated by one of her interrogators in an extraordinary story published in Sunday's New York Times Magazine. The story they told is New York Times Magazine. The story they told has the United States and the Central Intelligence Agency up to its neck in unspeakable evil. Florencio Caballero, who participated in torturing Murillo while she was held in a secret jail in 1983, says that he was trained in Texas by the CIA. He says he was part of an Army death squad that was responsible for the torture and slaying of about 120 Honduran and other Latin American citizens, and for the slaying of an American priest. Here are your tax dollars at work. Now that's quotes from the Washington Post. The story goes on to talk about corroborating this account by the reporter, a man named Lemoyne, in his account of the CIA involvement in Honduran government's brutal secret offensive against leftist dissidents. Continuing the story and taking quotes, Caballero says he was one of 25 people organized in a new Army intelligence unit in 1979 and sent to Texas for 6 months of training with a U.S. Army captain and CIA instructors.
This is training in how to torture?
Well, we're coming to that.
Okay.
Yes, exactly. Caballero told the Times that Americans taught him, quote, and now this is quoting Caballero, interrogation in order to end physical torture in Honduras. They taught us psychological methods to study the fears and the weaknesses of a prisoner. Make him stand up. Don't let him sleep. Keep him naked and isolated. Put rats and cockroaches in his cell. Give him bad food. Serve him dead animals. Throw cold water on him. Change the temperature. When I returned to Honduras, I was trained in assault, bombs, and explosives by Americans, Chileans, and Argentines. Now, that's the setting for this thing. More details come out of the New York Times story, of course, because it's quite a long story. About a Honduran Army death squad, which he said had tortured and then murdered approximately 120 Hondurans. Then the writer talks about speaking with Miss Murillo, who he finally found hidden in another country. Said 5 years later, after being beaten, electrically shocked, burned, starved, exposed, threatened, stripped naked, and sexually molested for 80 days, what happened to her, is a view of the most primitive and bitter level of the struggle between political change and the maintenance of state power, which is now underway in Central America. In 1980, 1984, the Honduran Army, with American support, uncovered and then systematically wiped out much of the small Honduran guerrilla movement, as well as other rebel networks with Honduras. Now, when you begin to hear this, what does this tick off in your memory? You remember Vietnam with the Phoenix program?
I remember that name.
Over 60,000 Vietnamese were, in the congressional record numbers, killed in the Phoenix program. Now, the thing about the Phoenix program that is shocking is that none of these people who were captured, tortured, and then killed were given trials. They had no rights of any kind. I can remember talking with people who said, you know, we picked up 5 or 6 gooks up the hill bring them back for interrogation. And he said they wouldn't speak to us, they wouldn't give us our names. So while they're in the helicopter, said we kicked one of them out. Just threw him out. And he said that impresses the other fellows. You know, that's the way the Phoenix program was run.